Good morning. So, another episode of the Year and Now videocast. And on today's episode, we have my good old friend, Marc Pillay. We've known each other for almost a lifetime now, Marc. We're almost a lifetime, I'd say. We're high school friends, yep. And Marc's living in Zimbabwe. He's an established lawyer and novelist. And he's got quite a story to tell. And on that note, I'd like to hand over to Marc to do a short introduction and tell us about himself.
Thanks, Lindsay. Good to connect with you after all these years. And of course, I love the T-shirt. Right, just a little bit about me. I'm Zimbabwean through and through, born here, still live here at the age of 40. Apart from my 4 years at university in South Africa, I've lived my whole life here, and I can safely say I love Zimbabwe. Proudly Zimbabwean, proudly African. I'm a lawyer by profession. I started off in private practice with one of the firms in Harare, and then I moved off into the commercial sector about 12 years ago, where I do in-house general counsel work. I've also dabbled a bit in HR practitioning and compliance as well. But in more recent years, in the past 3 years, I've taken somewhat of a major deviation. So my pet project, if you like, began with writing my first book, which I released last year. It's called Life Demystified. It's a personal growth, personal success, motivational book. And this year, in fact, just about a month ago, I released the second edition of that book. And within the next month or two, I will be releasing my second book, which will now set the tone for what will be a series of books. It's called the Demystified series. The second one is called Corporate Culture Demystified. So I'm juggling these two professional things at one time, being the day job and my pet project, while at the same time wearing other personal hats. I've got a wife of 6 years. We're coming up to our 6th anniversary in actually just under 2 weeks. Okay, and I've got two young kids, aged 2 years and 4 years, who are my everything. They motivate me in every aspect of life. They motivate me to be better in everything I do. And of course, it's with kids of that age, trying to work from home under lockdown conditions is not easy. But it always brings joy when you see these little smiles coming to peep into the room and see what you're doing. Yeah, that's me, Lindsay.
Marc, thank you for that really great, detailed and passionate introduction. So I'm intrigued. Let's go step by step. I'm intrigued what got you into law. What was the attraction to becoming a lawyer? We're leading on to why the books came. So what drove you to be a lawyer?
So it's interesting. And in fact, in my book, I dedicate the first 2 chapters to how I got into that and how I landed up where I am now. The law thing was almost, I don't know, something that wasn't supposed to happen. If you remember at school, I did sciences because I liked sciences and I was actually good at sciences, and I intended to go into medicine. For one reason or another, I didn't get a place at medical school. And being a young, naive guy fresh out of school, society ingrains things in you. And I think a lot, up to now, I'm talking about 20, 22, 23 years ago, but even now, you hear people talking about how prestigious it is to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really no basis for that. It's not like those are the 2 top professions in the world, nor should they be seen as that. But anyway, that's the message that had been ingrained in me by society. So I didn't get the doctor position. So I thought, well, let's try for the other one, lawyer. And I got a place. So there I went. And
so it was based on a cultural perception rather than passion. Is that what
correct? 100%.
Okay.
I mean, up until I was applying for university, I never had any inkling towards being a lawyer.
Wow.
But in my mind, it was always going to be doctor, and I didn't get the doctor position. So let's go for the next one and see what happens. So I did that. And when I got to law school, I quickly realized that, yeah, this is probably what I was cut out to do.
Wow.
And with the benefit of hindsight, it's made me realize that I think we've all got a purpose in life. And I'm not saying my purpose is being a lawyer, and I'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But life will carry on pushing us and nudging us towards our purpose. Even if it's it's something you don't think is for you at that time, life will push you in a certain direction. I think we've just got to learn to not resist the pushes all the time. And that was one of the big pushes in my life. I mean, if I went into medicine, I don't know what path I would have taken. Maybe I'd be a very successful doctor making a lot of money, but miserable because I didn't enjoy that at all.
That's really interesting that you say that. And I read your books. I can see that your mindset is very strong about following your path and letting go. And what intrigues me is when did this realization come that to follow instead of to go against the flow?
So that came as I set about writing my book, which would have been about 3 years ago, I think is the time when I sat down and decided I'm going to write a book. And in that process of starting with initial ideas, jotting down certain things as they come to mind, this is when I came to that realization. And that realization, certainly for me, is supported by a whole number of events, real events that have actually happened in my life, all tie in with this principle that life will push you where you're supposed to go.
Do you have just one example, just to connect with our viewers?
Okay, so there's that. And
if you're okay with it.
No, that's fine. And you touched earlier on how I moved from being a full-time lawyer into somebody who's writing books, and I might as well get into that now because that highlights another one, very good example. So, as I said, I moved into the corporate sector about 12 years ago, and at some point along the way, I got a big promotion in a fairly big company. I was very excited. I took it in my stride, but I quickly realized that I was a little bit out of my depth. I mean, up until that point, I had been a lawyer, nothing more, nothing less. This promotion actually took me out of the comfort zone, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to move out of your comfort zone. But it really highlighted a lot of shortcomings on my part. So the first thing I did, I went and bought a management book. It's actually called it's called the Financial Times Guide to Management. It's a very good book for anyone who's into business management. I would strongly recommend it. So I read that, and up until that point, I think from school until that point, I had not read a book. For 20 years, I had not read a single book. So that was a push, what I call these nudges from life, to read. All along, I thought I don't like reading. And up to this day, I'll probably still maintain the view that I don't like reading novels. For me, it's not my thing. But as I read this book, I quickly realized I thoroughly enjoy reading books that teach me things. And this was one of them. And I read it, and I loved it. I loved reading it, and I loved the information that I got from it. And from there, I started reading more and more books. And I think after not reading a single book for 20 years, I read about 5 books in the next 6 months.
Wow, that's incredible.
As I was reading these books, so that was another nudge from life. Read. I'm telling myself I don't like reading, but life is nudging me, read.
Yes.
And as I started reading, I began to pick up a lot of positive messages from some of the success classics, your Rich Dad, Poor Dad, your Who Moved My Cheese, and I think probably my favorite, The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't know if you've come across that one.
I've heard of it.
It's very good. I began to pick up a lot of positive things, a lot of very insightful things, but at the same time, it made me realize that I've got equally good insights. I've got equally good messages and equally useful and practical messages that I would like to share with the world. And that's how I came to writing a book. But again, you know, it's like everything came together at one time for me, because at the same time I had set myself a lot of like some serious health and fitness goals, weight loss and all of that. And I bought one of these fitness trackers. I don't know if you've used any of these. They're very good.
Yes, yeah.
So I bought one of these fitness trackers, and if you use it properly, just like any tool, it tells you a lot, and it gives you a lot. So after the first year of using this fitness tool, I went for my assessments, and sheesh, my results blew me away. In 1 year, I lost 30 pounds. You know,
incredible.
And it's not like I was doing that much differently from what I had been doing for the previous 18, 20 years. The difference was that I understood what I was doing. I was tracking and measuring the right things, and I was able to do that through the tracker, but also through digging a little bit deeper to find out what's behind these metrics and why is this metric important. If you don't know why a particular metric is important, then why are you measuring it? You know, what is it telling you? You're just ticking a box. So at that was the point I decided I'm actually going to write a weight loss book.
Okay.
And I still am. I haven't written it yet, but I still am. Okay. Because I want to first reach my final destination from that perspective before I write the book. But as I thought deeper about what I had just achieved, it's not specific to weight loss, it's not specific to fitness. There's a common principle, which is understanding. Whatever you're doing, weight loss, professional, personal, corporate, if you don't understand what you're doing, you're bound to fail. You'll be fumbling around in the dark, hoping to stumble upon success. You need to understand it. And that's where I really sat down and said, right, this is where my writing starts. It's more of a general book focused on success in any aspect of life, rather than zeroing in on one particular aspect. And that principle is understanding anything you're trying to achieve before you just jump in and run aimlessly in any direction.
Marc,
so yeah, these were all the nudges that were coming almost at one time and pushed me. They were all pushing me. There were a number of nudges, but they were all pushing me in one direction, towards writing, which I believe is my purpose. And I'm one of the lucky ones to have now found my purpose.
And Marc, this curious, insightful, always trying to grow mindset, would you say that's been part of you for as long as you can remember, or has it evolved in the more recent years?
It's definitely evolved, Lindsay. And in fact, I look back and I even in a bit of shock sometimes when I first came out of university and I went into legal practice. In my mind, I was done. I was done with learning in the formal sense. And in my mind at the time, learning and studying were one and the same. And I thought, right, I've done my studying, I've been through university, I'm done. I'm working now. I'm going to be a lawyer in 40 years' time. And whatever learning there will be done on the job through experience. And when I think back on that, I almost cringe. And I think, how was that me? Was that me who thought that way? It's in more recent times. And I think it's that step of picking up my first book on management and reading it that opened my eyes and opened my mind that learning is a continuous process and there's so much to learn. And learning doesn't mean writing exams. It's satisfying the hunger within the mind, and my hunger has become insatiable.
So, Marc, I'm getting more and more intrigued. I'm actually having to pick my questions because they're coming in a flood. Would you say that this is inherent in every single person, or I resonate with that a lot? And then I'm asking myself, is it a cultural, geographical thing? I did my apprenticeship. I put off my studies thinking I learned something that I need to learn that'll serve me for life. But only in the last couple of years, I realized that, wow, learning doesn't stop. And the more we hinder ourselves from learning, the slower our evolution and finding fulfillment becomes. So what is behind that? Does everybody have it? Do we need it triggered? Does it require a coach, a book? What feeds it?
Okay. Look, I've got strong opinions on this, but maybe before I share my opinions, it would be, I think I must clarify that I've got no formal qualification to hold these opinions. I mean, so I wouldn't want people to take this as professional advice of any sort. These are just my personal opinions based on my own observations in life and my own experiences in life. Mm-hmm. I think that hunger to learn is inherent in everyone, because the human brain is the most powerful thing any person will ever come across in their life. And it's the most powerful thing that every person has. We use such a small percentage of the power of that brain. But something, I don't know what the something is, and I think it might be different in different people. Something needs to trigger that hunger. As you said, it might be a life experience. It might be picking up a particular book that just hits a note with you. It might be talking to a coach who brings out certain things from within that you didn't even know were within you. But the other side of it, I think society in general, and I think it's a common aspect of a number of cultures across the world. They bring people up. Maybe times have changed now with the millennials coming through, but certainly when you and I were at school, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, parents and grandparents would drum it into you. You must get a good education. You must get a good job, earn your money, live your life, and then retire and get a pension. That was the path. That was like the one-size-fits-all path for everyone.
Yeah.
And once so you'd take those steps. You work hard at school, hopefully. Don't play too much. Get your good results at school. Go to university or take a different route, but ultimately land yourself in a good job. Stay in that job, get promoted, make as much money as you can, and then retire and get your pension. That was the path. So with that path, you get to a certain stage, and I got to that stage where I came out of university. I started my first job in a law firm, and I said to myself, I'm here. Now the rest of this path is just working in this job. It may be getting a promotion, making it to partner, but I'm on this path, and I'm not moving from this path until I retire. But something really brought out this hunger to learn. And maybe if I can go back, Lindsay, I hope I'm not sort of dominating the conversation and the direction it's taking.
No, this is about you. I want to hear your views. So, and I'm following you. So I got you. So take me with you. Let's go.
So it's brought up a very interesting and very important point as well, that I was on that path as a young attorney, and I was moving now in a straight line as per what my parents and grandparents told me. Mm-hmm. And I was never, well, I won't say never, but I was very unlikely to move off that path if everything was normal. The economy in Zimbabwe in 2008 took a major turn for the worse. I don't know if were you in Zimbabwe at the time or?
No, I'd gone by then. I left in 2008.
Okay. That's when really things were at their worst. That's when we were talking about the infamous $100 trillion note.
Yeah.
One note, one bank note being $100 trillion. There was nothing in the shops. Your salary was being eroded by 1,000,000% from month to month, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
That is the thing that pushed me out of legal practice. Nothing else. Not that I didn't like the job, not that I didn't like the profession, not that I thought I needed something new. It was financial, purely financial. One of my clients took me into his company and said, listen, I'll pay you what you should be paid. Forget that nonsense. And I left. That's how I left private practice and ventured into the commercial sector, which I may not have done for a long, long time, if at all, if the economy hadn't crumbled. And that was another big nudge from life, pushing me in the direction I was supposed to go. So yeah, at the end of the day,
you triggered something there. Can I ask you what your views on environment are? Your environment, internal and geographical. Does that play a part in how you move forward or don't?
It definitely plays a part in how you move. I don't know, maybe sometimes you don't have to move forward, eh? Maybe sometimes you even have to take a step backwards, or even take a step to the side so that you're looking down a different path. And I think definitely your environment, geographical and immediate, have a big role to play in where and how you move. You know, you find some people leaving jobs because they've got a terrible boss. I mean, that's part of your environment. But maybe the job itself, you love it. And if you had a better boss, you'd stay in that job. And it's a comfort zone. But maybe this terrible boss is life's way of pushing you out of there. You may not be moving forward. You may take a step to the side and move into a very similar job in a different company. But the moment you've moved, taken that sideways step, you've got a different view ahead of you, and you see things differently.
That's great. The power of perspective, huh? You change your perspective, you see things differently. So we've done a bit of a history lesson here. I like this. Let's connect all this experience into what you're bringing in your books and your vision.
Okay. So what I'm bringing, Lindsay, and as I say, I've read a lot of some of these classic self-help books, and they do bring a lot of positivity, a lot of value. But I found there's a problem. There's a problem I have with a lot of them, that the advice many of them give is often idealistic, doesn't take account of, the fact that life is happening. The fact that, you know, a lot of these motivational speakers and motivational books tell you to get out of your comfort zone and conquer fear and all of that. But they don't know your personal circumstances. They don't know the financial obligations that are holding you back. They don't tell you, I mean, there's very, very few, if any, books, motivational speeches that I've come across that tell you, start something and keep your job. Keep that job that gives you a comfort zone, because you still need to meet your financial obligations, whether you like it or not. But that shouldn't hold you back from starting. I mean, you've got many hours in the day. If you do your 8 to 5 job, go home, see your kids, whatever. If you've got the drive, if you've got the passion, you can put in 3-4 hours in the evening. Start your project. But don't just jump out of your comfort zone and say, no, the motivational speaker told me to jump out of this comfort zone and I'm going all into my new business. And then you've got no income for 2 years. Because look, any new business will make a loss at the beginning. That's a fact. That's a fact of business. And while your new business is making a loss, you still have financial obligations. So the advice that a lot of these books give is not practical. I take it from a very practical perspective. And every principle I share is backed up by real life examples of how they apply. Because listen, this is real life. We're not reading self-help books simply to make us feel good, and then we close the book and get back to the real life situation, which is totally different. And
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely. And so what message are you trying to, what are you trying to bring? What's the vision? Because there's a series coming up.
Okay, so slowly but surely, as we go through the series, this is going to be a series of about 8 to 10 books. I've already got the titles lined up.
Great.
So as I said, the first one is called Life Demystified, which is a more general look on life, and how success means different things to different people. And if I can just go back a little bit to that that path that was drummed into us by our parents. Good grades at school, good job, good salary, retire. It assumes that that means success to everyone, which is not the case. Different people have different ideas of success. And I think every person has to just take a little bit of time and do a little bit of introspection and find out what success means to them. Because you can have all the money in the world, you can have the best car, you can have the best house, yet you still find people unhappy. You still find people with all the money committing suicide. Why? It's because they are not really successful. It's what the outside world perceives as success. But you've got to find what it means to you. So that's what we're looking at in the first book. But as I said, we're going through a series. The second one is called Corporate Culture Demystified. So we're looking at how corporates work and how the culture really feeds into everything that happens. And there'll be many titles, but the vision is really to bring a real and practical message to real people in every aspect of life. Instead of coasting along on this path that you think has been set for you, take a step back, take a step to the side, think about what the path you want really is and why. Why are you doing the things that you've been doing for the past 10 years? Is it because somebody told you that that's what you're supposed to do? Or is it because that's what you thought about and you've decided that's really what life is about for you?
Wow. That's a powerful vision, though. And Marc, what fuels it? What's really behind, what's fueling Marcs to bring this really powerful, insightful self-help? It's self-help that people are going to benefit from, right?
Yeah.
What's at the core? Why do it? Why bring this?
Lindsay, I think, obviously my view is very biased. I think I've got new, different, and I think good ideas on how to tackle life practically and in a way that gives you self-fulfillment. I think I've got those ideas, and they're ideas that I've not come across in the books that I've read. So at the core of all this is really me sharing what I think is valuable information for every person going through life. We are all going through life. We've all got our own challenges. And it's my legacy. It's my legacy to the world. Share the messages that I think will help, really help. Not just make you feel good while you're reading the book and then close it and, oh, back to this crappy old life. And how do I get out of my situation?
Great. That's really noble, Marc. Very noble and very, I feel your passion. I mean, it's like you come into my computer and like, wow, this guy's building it. So it's really great. Marc, I got another question for you. With this wisdom and this insight we've seen and the vision you have, what would you say to Marc in the primary school, early high school? What, 20 years ago, 25 years ago?
I think the big one would be, don't stop learning, and don't ever think you're in a position to stop learning. As I said, I came out of university thinking I'm done learning. I'm now working. I'm now making money. How wrong I was. And that's what I tell anyone coming out of school right now. Don't think that when you finish your school and your university exams, you're done with learning. You're not. In fact, probably the things you'll learn as an adult may even be more important.
Great, great. I asked that for a very, it's got a psychological connotation. It's about the inner child healing. So it's the stuff we should be saying constantly because we can forget them and then we live with this regret later. So I really like what you're bringing. And what would you say to your future self? A bit of visioning.
Yeah, that's a hard one, eh? I think, okay, the first thing, obviously in the past year or two, I've put some serious hours into my writing while I'm also doing my day job, as it were. So I suppose the obvious message would be, listen, dude, don't let this hard work go to waste. Pick it up and take it forward. But at the same time, when I'm looking at things with the benefit of hindsight, I would say the way 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I thought I was set. I was on the path to becoming a successful lawyer, and I wasn't moving from that path. Maybe 10 years from now, I'll look back and say maybe writing wasn't the one. I mean, right now I'm convinced beyond any doubt that writing is my purpose. But I'd say to my future self, if the point comes where it doesn't look like it's the right path, don't be afraid to step off the path and look at things from a different perspective. Don't ever be afraid to step off the path that you're on.
That's very powerful.
Yeah,
and Marc, my copy is downstairs. I didn't come prepared. Do you have a copy of the first book, just to show us, in case anybody? Our accent sometimes is not picked up. I picked it up a lot here. So.
Sorry, I don't know. This is the first edition. Okay, is it?
Right.
How's it looking? Okay.
Yep.
This one is actually out of circulation at the moment. Let me just pull up a screenshot on my phone of the second edition. All right.
Okay.
The second edition has got a few changes here and there in the interior, not much. The major change has been the cover. The cover has changed, setting the platform for what I spoke about earlier, being the Demystified series.
Okay. I have the second edition, right? I bought it a couple of weeks ago.
Is it the red one?
No, it's not red. I think it's the regional one.
Let me see.
Okay, yes, that's it. Yeah.
Is that the one you have?
Yep.
Okay. So that's the one you'll find on Amazon.
Okay.
Hard copy and Kindle. Okay. So that was released just a month ago, and maybe a bit of boasting, but if you'll indulge me, it actually hit #1 new release in 2 categories over the past month on Kindle.
Oh wow! Okay, great.
Yeah, so I'm pretty chuffed with that.
Embrace it. Your acknowledgement is powerful. Don't feel like you're being arrogant. It's something you achieved, and success must be celebrated. It creates a physiological effect for wanting us to do even more.
Yeah, so, no, definitely.
So don't cover the light, let it out. Thank you for doing that. That was great. Marc, do you do any self-help, any personal development on yourself? I know you do fitness.
Yeah, I do a lot of fitness.
And you read a lot. Just one more for the viewers to connect.
I've taken, in my day job, I've almost by force of circumstance, I've been thrust into a major leadership position. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. And I've embraced it. But again, it's something that's opened up my eyes to an aspect I really need to grow in, which is not only business leadership, because I think business leadership is quite restrictive, but leadership as a whole.
Okay. So
I'm making some serious attempts to grow in that area. And I think, again, maybe it's down to one of life's nudges. This COVID-19 lockdown has again forced people to take different steps that they would not ordinarily have taken. Mm-hmm. You've now got to manage people remotely, which is very different. Yeah. To managing people face to face. You've got to do crisis management. And it's almost like a lot of people have been, especially business leaders, were thrown in at the deep end. Managing a crisis is perhaps the biggest test of leadership. And I've had to quickly grow in that area. And I've realized that there's still a lot of growth to be done.
And as we come to the close, what message do you want to give to yourself, to your girls, to people? What value do you want to share?
Okay, I think, look, as a general principle, and I teach, okay, no, I think, I know you've got girls. I don't have two girls. I've got a boy and a girl.
Ah, sorry, that was an assumption. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I do tell my 4-year-old, I've started bringing her into my way of thinking, maybe rightly or wrongly, I don't know, that we'll find out in years to come. But the message I like to bring in every aspect of life: be clear on why you are doing something. If you just go about doing things mindlessly or because somebody told you to do that, it's not going to add any value to your life. Be clear on why you are doing it. In your personal life, in your professional life, if you don't know the why behind it, that's where understanding comes in. You may be doing it totally wrong, because there's different ways to do different things. And the reason you're doing it will always determine the best way to do it. So yeah, in a nutshell, always be clear on why you're doing what you're doing.
Marc, thank you so much. I'd love to go on, but we're trying to keep a bit of a small time cap on it. But there's so much. And maybe in a few weeks, we can come back to the second book and we can do another run and go more in detail.
Yeah, I'd like that.
How are you feeling? You okay?
Yeah, all good, man. It's been, a very, very nice experience, actually. My first time doing one of the, what do you call this? A webcast?
A videocast.
Videocast.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first one. Very positive, and thanks for giving me the opportunity, Lindsay.
You did great. I'm really glad to have had you here and for you offering such sincere and authentic views and thoughts. And we'll come to a close, and I'll thank you very much, and we'll speak again soon.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Marc.
Enjoy the rest of your day.